Okay, so today we did something very different with our purging methods on our machine. So I'm going to explain that at the end of the video, so stick around for that. But this morning I ran through some white plastic. This is hot plastic, it's just dyed white. I wanted to really see that nice white full color. And then from there, I turned off the system. I walked away for about 5 hours, let it all cool down. I came back and then I put in some plum purple color. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm flushing out, I'm purging that white dye, and you're going to see plum purple seep in here in a second, and it'll push out all that white. Then from there, I went to pour a few samples on our table just to show you the quality and the color contrast. That was the white, and this is the plum purple I poured. So it came out pretty nice. I just poured another larger sample just to make sure we're not getting any air bubbles and make sure that color quality is good. And everything looked good for my test. So we ran the system pretty hot actually. Our heat exchanger is at about 370 in this test, and our hose was around 345 if I recall correctly. So a bit hotter than yesterday, but that helped with the startup because... Okay, so what we did differently today on the machine, and this goes completely against the video I put out the other day on the purging process, which in the previous video I said that it's very important to flush out your lines with air after every use. However, that opinion was challenged, and I have since done the opposite. And so last night what I did is I let our system, I turned it off, I let it cool down overnight with full lines and full heat exchangers. So plastic was still inside. This morning I came back, I turned it on, and so all I needed to do was bring our temperatures in the heating system, both the heat exchanger and the hose, above what I normally would to get that initial remelt and to really speed up that remelt process. And I was able to get flow off that remelt, and so I just basically blew it out, and I basically went from clear plastic yesterday to white plastic this morning, as you guys just saw. And then I turned off the system again, came back I believe 4 or 5 hours, put in some plum purple, and then I, again with leaving the system full with the white plastic, came back with the purple, hooked it up, and blew out the white with the purple. And so far this method is actually working pretty well. So I'm going to continue to try and do this. Although I believe purging out with air does work, I think there's one risk associated with that. And so essentially the risk is when you blow out your lines with air, both your hose and your heat exchanger, you leave a small layer of that plastic in. You know, you can't fully blow out 100% of your plastic. And so there's always going to be a small layer lined inside your hose and heat exchanger. And so it takes a while for heat exchangers to cool down. And so that heat exchanger is still cooking, you know, for a good hour plus after you shut the system down. And so that can slowly burn that thin lining of plastic inside it. And so essentially, if you leave the heat exchanger full of plastic, that's a lot more mass to transfer all that thermal heat, and so it'll reduce the risk of burning. Your plastic may yellow, so essentially when you blow it out the next time, you'll get, you know, a little pile of yellow plastic, and then it'll clear out because that was sitting in the heat exchanger while it was hot for a while. But that yellow clump of plastic is much better than having burnt plastic, because you blow out your air lines and then that thin layer slowly, you know, cooked overnight essentially. But we're going to continue to test this because I'm not going to say any one way or another yet on the purging process is absolutely, you know, gospel, because we're still in the beginning phases of testing. And this is exactly why it's so important for us to test this thoroughly before we start building for you guys. And so I'm going to continue to test this method. I just shut it down full of plastic again. I'll come back in the morning, I'll start it back up, and I'll put in another color. And I'm going to push out this cold plastic after I remelt it, and we'll see if it continues to be consistent, and I'll keep you guys updated. But again, this is exactly why I keep messaging people saying it's, you know, we really have to test this thoroughly before we start distributing anything, because we really need to lock down the system and get everything to be consistent. And so we're just figuring that out right now. But good progress today, and things are looking good right now.